Hey, 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 all you lovely legends. Let's talk about gains. or I would probably call this progress. There's so much. I know I did a little video the other day on feeling stuck, and I feel like I really want to nail down more of the concept around lack of progress, but also one of the common denominators of the reason why psychologically people don't make progress. The reason I want to share this with you is because in my coaching program, there is lots of fluctuation in salon and clinic owners that are doing well. And then there's some salon and clinic owners that I would say are probably lacking in progress and being able to achieve certain milestones. And there is one area that probably myself as a psychologist dealt with a lot in private practice. And now I'm dealing with a lot in business life because everyone's human. And I think this is more of a human psychology challenge than it is a business or a people that come to therapy challenge. Is that in order for you to gain and move forward, you must stop avoiding, right? You must stop avoiding. There's a whole myriad of things that people avoid. Okay, so one of the biggest areas of avoidance is around emotional discomfort. So I could probably say 99.9% of business owners that are not progressing towards their goals and their things that they want to achieve in their business life is due to some fundamental degree of avoidance in their life. Probably an element of emotional avoidance, because that really is the kingpin of avoidance. We avoid lots of things in life. We avoid conflict. We avoid confrontation. We avoid conversations. We avoid communication. But they're just symptoms of the underlying factor, which is avoidance of emotional discomfort. Because we avoid all of these things. We avoid having difficult conversations with our team members because we don't like how it makes us feel, right? And we're also worried about the impacts of that, so we don't do it, right? We avoid stuff that we don't like doing. So you might be avoiding understanding your numbers or downloading your profit and loss report every month. There's nothing wrong with the profit and loss report. It's that you don't like the emotional experience attached to looking at that and not understanding what's going on. So the emotion of overwhelm, stress, anxiety, fear, like again, it's the emotional trigger that you're seeking to avoid. So I want you to think about where the areas in your business life that you are not experiencing a degree of gain, where you're not making progress, where you don't feel like you are achieving the milestones that you should be achieving. And I want you to ask yourself the question, what am I really avoiding here? And not just, I'm avoiding the fact that I can't be bothered going and downloading my profit and loss report. I want you to sit with yourself for a moment. I want you to sit with yourself and really internally think about the emotional experience that you might be seeking to avoid. Because there's lots of different emotions that can be incredibly painful, some more than others. And I would say the more painful those emotions are, the more likely you're going to avoid a certain activity. And how also you're probably likely to avoid that for longer periods of time and more extensively. You'll do anything you can to keep away from it. And it will be ongoing. It will be an ongoing pattern in your life. It's only when we actually seek to step into that discomfort, and it might not be at a 10 out of 10 level, right? You might go, okay, well, if having this conversation with this team member is absolutely 10 out of 10 anxiety provoking, what can I do that's only a 2? So you don't have to dive in at 10. You can just come in at 2. Well, what would be a 2? So a 2 might be addressing the issue as a group. And I see that all the time. I won't address the person individually because that gives me a heart attack. But what I will do is I'll send an email to all of the team members highlighting this issue, right? And let's say it doesn't work. And then you go, okay, well, now I'm going to have to step it up a little bit. I still am too scared to have the conversation with the team member, but what can I do to bring up the issue that is a little bit higher in an emotional intensity? So what might be a 4 out of 10? And that might be that you go to the team meeting and you actually talk to the team, I suppose in a group again, but you actually talk about it verbally and you go, this is the challenge that I want everyone to be mindful of, and and this is what it needs to look like, and so on and so forth. But what happens is if you do your 2, if you do your 4, then you think about what your 6 might be, you think about what your 8 might be, and then you think about your 10 is actually having the direct conversation with the team member. What you actually do is you start to build tolerance to the emotional discomfort, right? And by the time you get to the 10, it's actually not as comfortable than if you had just gone straight for the 10. You'd gone straight for the jugular, right? Because you've had all of these practice runs, and we call this exposure therapy. In fact, when people have phobias towards things, this is exactly how we treat it, So it's about having a step-by-step approach-driven process for maybe not going for the jugular and scaring the shit out of yourself, but what is the lesser attempt that I can make to build up my emotional tolerance to then being able to have this courageous conversation with the team member that I probably need to have, right? So it happens in a staged process. So I hope that's helpful, but I think step 1 is really working out if you're not making progress in your business for certain outcomes, really tapping into yourself and go, what am I avoiding here? What's the emotion that I can attach to this? And what is the step-by-step ladder that I can build in emotional intensity to start approaching this avoidance that I've got going on? Because I would say that avoidance is probably the biggest reason why clients don't make progress, because they're avoiding something, and the underlying nature of all of those symptoms of avoidance is that there's an emotional element to it. I hope that makes sense.